Umang Vohra, the MD and Global CEO at Cipla, joining in on the show right now. Umang, hi, morning. Good to have you on the show. Congratulations. Yours is perhaps the only stock in the green right now in the markets. The margins, Umang, are lower, but we believe that there is more than a one-off for margins this time around. Could you tell us about what the normalized margins look like?
And I think a good commentary would be to also look at the full year margin. That's what the company had guided at the beginning of the year, and that's ending up at close to the 19% range. Quarter four is usually for us a very off-season quarter, and therefore the margins historically, if you were to look at a couple of quarters back, have always been kind of subdued in quarter four. But let me talk through some of the specific one-offs. The first is we weren't able to invoice about 200 odd crores of sales on account of the last week of COVID closure. And that is pretty high margin sales, the impact of which would have flowed directly to profitability. So that has not, we are not able to do that. The second is we're comparing against the base in the previous year where there was a huge amount of cinacalcet sale, which is not the right comparison for this quarter and for the next two. So we'll have to take the cinacalcet Sensipar comparison out, which is why you see the huge movement. And the third is cinacalcet itself had some charges this quarter as the exclusivity has run off. So those need to be taken out. And finally, there was in the last 6 to 9 months, we spent a fair amount of cost and effort on the remediation required for Goa, which is now completely in our numbers. And pretty much from where we stand, we see the remediation effort and work for Goa that's required to finish approximately in June or July, the charges for which have largely been taken in the last quarter.
Sure. Umang, what's the update on the US market? Sales have normalized in the fourth quarter, as we understand. But do you think that, by new launch sales will actually pick up in the year to come?
So we don't guide by market, but we are coming off a pretty solid year on account of Sensipar, and we're glad that we've got Albuterol approved, and also we had asfomeprazole granules approved in the last week of the previous quarter. So I think we're coming. Our limited competition launches are beginning to take. We've had in this quarter, we've guided that our base business in the US is roughly around 120 to 125. So every new launch we get above should add hopefully above this meaningfully.
What's the update on US market? Sales have normalized in Q4, but do you think led by new launches, sales will actually pick up in the following year?
I think maybe what I can take you through is the market makeup first. So this is a 55 million unit market. And with the recent shortage of Albuterol in the US, it moved to a 65 million unit annual tracking sort of a market. So if you look at a 55 million unit market and on a branded side, it being about close to 4 billion in sales across the 3 brands of Albuterol, it's a very significant and sizable market for Cipla to play in. And, I can't guide you on individual product numbers, but, we are launching this product in a staggered manner because that's the time it takes to ramp up production, etc., in the Albuterol franchise. But it is our belief that, there is 55 million units. Even if Cipla can take 10% or 15%, this is, eventually, not immediately, but eventually, this is a fairly sizable market for Cipla and a very attractive market for Cipla to play in.
Are there other inhaler opportunities which Cipla is looking to file in the US as well? And, what do you feel will be the main growth driver going ahead? Could that actually be it? Will the respiratory franchise, boosted by another complex filing be something that could be the driver going ahead?
Well, the answer is yes. I think very clearly the inhaler opportunity and this whole part of lung leadership, right? And we'd like people across the world, to position Cipla as a lung leader. And if you look at Cipla's prowess already, we are number 2 in terms of both MDI and DPI sold worldwide. Yes, is the number 1 company. and we are number 2 already just with the number of devices that we sell worldwide in both these categories. So our ambition is to dominate this space across all markets and offer solutions to patients which they are not getting today. But let's just talk about the unlocking of this opportunity. It's a very good question, Pankaj. And I think one of the things I'd like to point out is that up till now the market was looking for a validation of Cipla's capabilities and trying to take these products to the US. We've had Albuterol approved. That's a great validation for MDI. We just finished the trial, and a filing is imminent in the next 1 or 2 days for the Advair product, which is a product that many companies have struggled to get a first-pass clinical trial approval, and we've just passed that. We also filed another product, which I can't disclose right now due to IP issues. We also filed another product, which is again in another inhaler in quarter 4, and we have a partnered asset, which is in another very large category where we believe there's nobody else working in the product as well, and that product's in clinical trials with our partner. And I think if you just combine these 4 and the rest of the products that we are likely to do, this opportunity is beginning to unlock for us in the US and carries a fairly significant value for the company in the long term.
All right. And finally, Mr. Vohra, also, when we look at India and other EM businesses, how would you overall assess the current scenario with the focus on COVID-19 in particular? What's the process, for other prescription drugs? Is it lower? How have things fared? Are they any better in the month of May?
So there are 2 ways to dimensionalize your question. I think the first is what happened in the first 2-3 weeks of the lockdown. Right? At that point in time, there was a serious dip, right? Because everyone was dealing with the lockdown initially. What we found in week 3 and week 4 was that there was activity resumed by doctors. A fair number of doctors also started interacting virtually with their patients, and I think that trend we're beginning to see, and that's on an uptick. And now what's happened in the last week is that the green and orange zones are opening up, and we see activity resuming there. Of course, there are sections where the doctors are not meeting as much as some of the sections. For example, dentists and dermatologists, because of the risk of this infection being real, are perhaps not meeting as much as interventionalists, chest physicians, etc. Those people are meeting a lot more in terms of patients. So I think it's gradually opening up. My sense is that as we build more experience out of the green and the orange zones, and as the red zones begin to open up, you will see a resumption in activity. Probably should take, in my view, depending on the zones, we'll have to.
All right, we'll let you go on that note. Thanks much for taking time out and joining in. We look forward to those product launches.